Hi everyone, Janet McDonald here from My Campus GPS. Today I'm talking about how and why to read a scholarship application. So the idea here is to read the entire application before you actually start to write. So one of the ways that I help students with scholarships is that I deliver a scholarship essay writing workshop. And this is one of the first things that we cover in the workshop. So I'm just going to go through this little part with you here today to give you a good tip on that could help you save either a lot of time or it could help you to craft a much better application. So I'm Janet McDonald and I'm a former university admissions officer. I was also a program coordinator for a national scholarship program. And I started My Campus GPS because I've worked with hundreds of students over the years. And one of the things that I found out through working with them is that many of them probably could have funded at least part of their university through scholarships if they had just known more about how to find them and then how to craft a good application for them. So there are a lot of students who are just missing out on this free funding. So that's the reason why I started My Campus GPS, to help more students to find and win scholarships. So let's get into how and why to read the scholarship application. So I do suggest that students read it in its entirety first before writing. Many will just kind of do a really quick review of it and then just jump right into writing. And I'll show you some of the reasons why you should really read it from front to back, top to bottom before you start writing. So the first reason is because you can learn more about the requirements by doing this, by reading it more carefully and finding out, do you actually qualify for the award? So sometimes students don't read all of the requirements, and sometimes if they don't, if they don't read them, they may be applying for an award that they don't actually qualify for and therefore will not receive the award. So for example, the Schulich Leader Scholarship, it's for students who are entering university into STEM programs, so science, technology, engineering, and math. However, there are only certain eligible programs and at certain universities. So the Schulich cannot be applied to some programs at some universities. So it's very important that if you're looking to apply for this particular award, that you are intend to apply to an eligible program at one of the approved universities. The second reason that you should read the application carefully is to find out, can you actually meet all of the requirements in time? So even if you qualify for the award, you might not be able to meet all of the requirements before the deadline. And for example, one of the areas of the application that can be quite time consuming to get are references. So how many references are required? Can you get the references? How are the references delivered to the funder and all of that? And can that happen before the deadline? So again, if you can't meet that requirement by the deadline, then it's probably not worth your while to apply. Okay, the next thing that you can find out from reading the application is to find out, how competitive is it? Now you can't ever know exactly how competitive it is, because only, the funder really knows how many people applied and what the quality of the applicants were. But you can glean some information that will give you some idea about how competitive it is. So one of the ways is to find out, okay, is this a national award, meaning any student in Canada could apply for it, or is it regional, or is, let's say, provincial? So for example, only students in Ontario, for example, qualify for it, or is it city or like community? The smaller the catchment area, the fewer number of people who are eligible for it, it would tend to be less competitive. Okay, so that's one way that you can kind of tell. The other way is, how well is it advertised? So if you see this award being advertised, for example, on all the search engines, and it's popping up all over the place, it's on your school bulletin board, it's everywhere, then the chances are good that it will be quite competitive. There will be a lot of applications for it. And on the flip side, of course, if it's one that isn't really very well well advertised, then the chances are good that it's not as competitive. The other thing is the length of the application. Applications that are quite extensive, that require a lot of work, a lot of time to put into them, tend to be less competitive because, frankly, students don't want to, don't want to take the time to complete a long application. So if it is quite extensive, then the chances are better probably that it's less competitive, because there will be fewer people who will actually complete the application and have it in on time. The other thing is the amount of the award. So if it's a lot of money, then chances are it's probably quite competitive, and if it's less money, it's probably less competitive. So one of the questions that I get a lot from students is, how competitive do you think this is, and is it worth it for me to apply for this? And really only you can determine whether or not it's worth it for you. I would suggest that any student who qualifies for any scholarship should apply for it. However, that's, assuming you have all the time in the world. And I know that students are busy and they don't have all the time in the world. So you do kind of have to pick and choose. So these ways that I just mentioned are ways that you can kind of gauge in your mind how competitive it is, and if you think that you meet the qualifications and that you're a good candidate, should you actually apply at that point. Another thing, though, to bear in mind is that some students, even highly qualified, excellent students, will apply for scholarships and they will be disqualified because they didn't complete the application properly. They left something out, or they made some kind of mistake on the application form. So if that's the case, then they will, they could be disqualified. So even if you are not the best candidate, you can sometimes win the award if other candidates have been disqualified. So that's just a little bit of information to help you to gauge for yourself if you think that the scholarship is worth it for you to apply. Okay, the fourth thing, and an important thing, is that some applications will actually have really valuable information kind of buried in it in the application sometimes. So I'm talking about a grading rubric for the essay, or some kind of guidelines that helps you to will help you to craft a better application. So for example, in the essay contest, The Dumbest Thing I Ever Did with Money, if you look in, and I think this was buried kind of like in a link, so it was online, so if you clicked through a couple of links, you could find this type of information. So it's the blue part here, and this is an actual clip from the website. So you can see that there is a part that says essay judging and how to win. So down below you can see that there are items there that you should have in your essay, and you will be graded basically on those things. So the very first thing is funny. So that tells you that this should be a humorous essay. Now, if you hadn't have read the entire application and found this information, you might not know to make your essay funny. So that's just an example of the type of information that might be kind of buried, either if it's online through links, or it may be even in the fine print of an essay of a scholarship application. So these are the reasons why you should read the entire application before you start writing. Do you qualify? Can you meet the requirements? Is it worth it for you? And is there some kind of like scoring sheet or rubric that can give you more information about how to craft the best application possible? Okay, so as I mentioned, this is one of the first things that I cover in my scholarship essay writing workshop. I do have 2 workshops coming up in the next little while, so one in January and one in February. They're both in Nova Scotia, so if you're here in Nova Scotia, then I hope that you will consider coming to them. If not, then I am thinking about having an online one. So I will do an online essay writing workshop with information delivered in a similar way as I just did here now. So this is me, Janet McDonald. My website for more information is mycampusgps.ca. And if you'd like to email me, you can do so at janet@mycampusgps.ca. If you would be interested in joining me for an online essay writing workshop, then please send me an email, and then I can put your name down as being interested and let you know when I'll be having that. So thanks very much, and I look forward to helping you in the future.